This is Barcelona. Hello, welcome back. This is part 2 of my series on our Spain trip. If you want to watch the other 2 parts, I'll link them down below. Part 1, we were in Madrid, and part 3 will be in Valencia. And if you're enjoying the videos, maybe drop a subscription. But with that out of the way, on to Barcelona. So Barcelona is known for being an oceanfront town in the Catalan region of Spain. We went in March, so no beach activities for us, but we can do what we do best, which is walking around. The weather was perfect for that. If I look at the days I was in Barcelona, or even all of Spain, we're doing 22,000, 20,000, 26,000, 29,000 steps a day. So it's a lot of walking. If you watched the last video, you'll know we took a train from Madrid to Barcelona. It's a short train ride, maybe 2.5 hours, and it's pretty cheap, $100 a person maybe. Now in our case, it was a packed train. I don't know if it's always like that. They're pretty frequent, but there was a Clásico the day we arrived in Barcelona, so maybe that was the reason. Or maybe it's always like that. We left Madrid around 8:30, got to Barcelona probably 11ish, and by the time we got to the hotel, it was around 11:30 noon. Now Barcelona as a whole is very picturesque. There's so much to do, so much to see, so much to take pictures of, and especially the Gothic quarter. It's a very scenic area. But first thing we do is get to the hotel. I'll drop a quick little hotel room tour. Now this is the only hotel we actually paid for, which is kind of a bummer, and it was also probably the worst one. Not that it was a bad hotel, but the other hotels were just on another level. And we're in the Gothic quarter, which is probably the most touristy quarter, but for good reason. Like, you'll see all this Gothic architecture and cobblestone streets and narrow alleyways, and like I said, lots of places to take photos, which is mostly what we did. I mean, we're going to cafes, we're getting food, we're taking photos, we're walking around, and we see this place called the Moco Museum, and we decided to go in. It's a lot of like contemporary art. There's like Banksy exhibits, there's a Team Labs exhibit, and it was pretty nice. Definitely a good way to kill an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. So the other things we did were, of course, the Sagrada Familia, which is probably the main tourist attraction in Barcelona. This is something you have to book tickets for. We booked them in advance. I don't know if you really have to, but we did. And they'll give you a time slot. And this one I highly recommend. The whole place is so picturesque and beautiful. It's under construction. It's been under construction for 100 years, literally. I think it's scheduled to be finished within the next couple of years though. But it's crazy to look at inside and out. There's a beautiful park on both sides of it. Inside, every picture you take is beautiful. I highly recommend checking that place out. I've never been anywhere like it. So another thing you can do is we went over to Park Güell. Kind of similar. We booked in advance. They give you a time slot you're supposed to show up, and this was a little more disappointing. It wasn't too expensive to get in, but it's just kind of like a park, you know. There's some architecture from the same architect, Anthony Gaudi, who designed Sagrada Familia and a whole bunch of other buildings in Barcelona, which is nice to see, but it's probably not worth paying for. There's a bunch of street vendors and it's a little crowded, but we got some good pictures. But if you decided to skip this one, you're not missing out on too much. One last thing I'll say about Park Güell is you can actually walk up a huge staircase behind it, and you can get some of the best views of Barcelona from the top of that hill, and it actually doesn't cost anything if you're willing to make the hike. Now, speaking of Gaudi, obviously there's all kinds of buildings all over Barcelona you can find that were designed by him. It's a very unique and signature style of building. So you can walk up and down. There's a place called Las Ramblas, which is not like a shopping street, but there's a median in the middle you can walk down, and it's pretty crowded and touristy, and it's known for having a lot of pickpockets and tourist trap restaurants. So we walked up and down it, but didn't really stop anywhere. Now, if you're into Mercado de San Miguel from Madrid and you wanted to check out a place similar to it, there's a place called Mercado de la Boqueria, which is kind of the same vibes. So if you're into that kind of thing, definitely check that place out. Now, one of the days my wife was getting a tattoo, so I decided to go to Camp Nou, which is a cool area. The stadium itself is cool, and then the area around it is like a university. So I was walking around the campus for a little bit, and it's just a super nice area. I'd actually recommend going over there, especially if you're a soccer fan. And then after that, I still had some time to kill, so I just picked a random park to go to. This one happened to be on the south side of the city, and I thought it was a park, but it was more like a hill. I'm kind of hiking up it, and it has great views actually overlooking Barcelona. You can see pretty much the entire city along with the coastline. So that was a pretty fun day. I had a nice little hike. And then the last activity that we did was probably worth mentioning, which is we took a day trip to Montserrat. Now, this is about an hour from Barcelona, and the trains leave pretty much every hour. Montserrat is like a monastery that they built way up in the hills. It's basically on top of a mountain. So we left our hotel at around 9:30, and we actually missed the train, so we had to wait until 10:30, but we basically didn't get back until 4 p.m. And the train takes you to the base of this mountain, and you can either take a cable car, or there's like a funicular, I think it's called, that goes like up, it does like switchbacks up the mountain. Now at first I was like, why wouldn't you take the cable car? But if you're afraid of heights, this cable car is not for the faint of heart. You're kind of just dangling over this huge chasm and you're very high off the ground, and it's very crowded, but it's definitely the fastest way to get up there. And once you get up, there's, you know, the monastery, obviously, there's some other surrounding buildings. It's a nice area. There's beautiful views overlooking the Catalonia region of Spain, and overall fun experience. You'll get some good pictures here. That's something I would definitely recommend doing if you're in Barcelona. That's pretty much it as far as activities go that we did. I will say the food in Barcelona was all good. Some of the most delicious bread and sandwiches I've ever had. Great tapas, Mediterranean food. I really need to get more food pictures and food footage next time, I swear. That pretty much wraps up Barcelona. Next up's Valencia, and we decided to actually fly to Valencia. I'll talk about that in the next video. Final thoughts on Barcelona. Super picturesque. Nice to just walk around. At first I thought it was a little touristy and crowded, but there's definitely places you can go to that are less touristy and way less crowded. It definitely grew on me the longer we stayed there. Tons of fun overall. Definitely worth the trip down. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe. If you missed my Madrid video, go back and check that one out. And finally, check out the video on Valencia, and that's gonna wrap up our Spain trip. And we have an Instagram, TikTok for all budgeting and travel itinerary ideas. And that's gonna do it for this. I will see you in the next one. This is Barcelona. As we're walking around and we see this place called the Moco Museum.